Okay, so that's a very, that's a very complicated question. It seems to me that when you look at architecture, there are two types, there are two ways of looking at architecture. One is as an aesthetic experience. I mean, the reason I did my research in architecture and I wrote the book was because the first time when I went to New York, I saw Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim building in Manhattan. And this made an immediate impact on me aesthetically. This is partly due to the fact that I come from Glasgow, which is a city in Scotland. And when I was growing up in Glasgow, there were no big buildings. There were some old traditional buildings, which were very important to the people of Glasgow. But there were no buildings that I ever saw then that made an aesthetic impression. The first time I went to New York, I made a comparison with what I'd been experiencing in Glasgow as a young man. And it felt like I'd come from Lilliput. I don't know if Lilliput is part of the Serbian culture, but it's of course a famous novel about very small people in very small places. So New York was a real revelation. So the excitement of seeing the Guggenheim in New York in the late 1990s was such that I think this is not just a building, it's a work of art. And when it happens to you, architecture becomes something quite different. So that's one way in which you can appreciate architecture. The other way, which is more political and much less aesthetic, is of course to see what the function of iconic buildings is in terms of the way in which cities are run and in which countries are run. Because, as many scholars have already noted, iconic buildings can sometimes be used to justify what the government of a country is doing. And this, of course, connects with what I was saying before about the problem of evil, administrative evil. So these are the two ways in which I was looking at architecture. And I'd be interested to know what the favorite buildings are of the people who are here tonight. That's always the first question I ask people when they ask me about my book. What's your favorite building? And how does it make you feel? So I'll put the question up to you.
Thank you so much for your answer. Do we have any further questions? Yes? So 2 more? 3 more? It was 4. Oh, this is good. So, this was... No, who's the first?
Želite profesor Sklera, što misle, što je nekako trenutno pitanje izgradnja linije, neko projekat. Što misle njemu, pošto gradovi idu, da li će biti izvežen, to je naravno pitanje, ali prosto što misle o projektu. Samim tim može biti gotovo, ali generalno kako bi promijenio život ljudi i njegov pogled prosto na...
Mislite, čekajte na liniju na koju mislite?
Sad bi se radi linije.
Aha, na to. Čekajte da... Čekajte da vidim kako da postavim to pitanje.
The line. Kako se zove The line?
The lines, okay. So I'm not sure how to translate this. So what is your thought on the Saudi Arabia project called Line or something like that? So was that the futuristic city, right? So
it should be.
yeah, that
Is this the Belgrade waterfront you're talking about?
No, the student posed the question regarding the Saudi Arabia project called The Line. So you know about it in the, I think, somewhere northwest of Saudi Arabia. So about the futuristic city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know much about it. In fact, I have to make an admission here that I really don't like much modern architecture, contemporary architecture. When I fell in love with architecture, it was the buildings of many decades ago, and some classical buildings. But I assume this project of the line in Saudi Arabia was a building. I could be wrong about this, but I'm speculating. It's not a building about making something beautiful. It's a building about sending a message to the rest of the world about how powerful, how rich, and how influential Saudi Arabia has become. Because we mustn't forget that it was not so many years ago that all the countries in the Arabian Gulf were considered to be very backward and simply their production of oil. So this new building presumably operates as an icon to project a new image of Saudi Arabia. This happens all over the world. But has nobody got a favorite building to tell me about?
Thank you once again for this answer. Proceed further. So?
Isto ćirilicom. Moje pitanje započinje nekim idejskim stavom koji zvuči malo brutalno marksistički, ali